to First Abyssinian Baptist Church. As you can see, I was really engulfed in this book that I'm reading. It's entitled Leading the Comeback Church. And it's written by a gentleman by the name of David F. Dixon. And I find it fascinating in terms of what I've been reading. And I just wanted to impart some thoughts to those persons who view us by way of live streaming. And that is, I want to talk about our personal comebacks and how relative they are to a church making its comeback. One, you tend to think that life ought to be a straight flow, but if truth be told, we all have those tendencies to go down in valleys, and we wonder sometimes if that we can rise again or overcome some of the obstacles that have consequently taken us down in the valley. And that's what I want to encourage somebody about today, that you can make a comeback. And that's probably what we're remembered more for than anything else. It's not the success that we have, but the comebacks that we've had to make in order to achieve those successes. And thus, I wanted to just encourage somebody today not to give up on your dreams, not to throw in the towel, not to say, well, you know, I've fallen, or my church is not growing, or this is not happening, my marriage is not what it ought to be. I'm not in a proper relationship with my children as I would like to be. But you have to keep in mind, you have the potential of making a comeback. Christ says, the Bible says rather, that greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. There is no obstacle. There's nothing that can keep us from making a comeback once we have Christ in our lives. I've been an example of that, because in the seasons that I've served as pastor of the First Abyssinian Baptist Church, we've had some high peaks. We have done insurmountable feats for the Lord in terms of lifting up a standard or calling people's attention to his destiny or purpose for their lives. But I have to admit that there's been some falls, there's been some valleys. But I refuse not to rebound from those situations. I say to myself on one occasion, he that's begun a good work in you, he's able to complete it. And so don't give up if you are going through a difficult time, or there's a shift in your life, or that you're in transition. It's only an indication that God is not through with you yet. He can let you continue to propel into your destiny without any deliberations, without any setbacks or falls. But God allows us to fall. Scripture says a righteous man may fall 7 times, but God will raise him back up again. And so it is that with God's purpose or divine blueprint for your life, there's opportunity waiting for you to discover it. And in the process of doing it, you're gonna have some downtime. You're gonna have some situations and circumstances that's gonna evade your dreams and your ambitions and your goals. But that's no reason for you to say, I quit. And I'm gonna throw in the towel. I don't feel as though it's in me to go any further. But God can pick us back up again. The story is told about a donkey that fell into a well one day, and the owner couldn't get him out, and he tried, he threw down a rope, he couldn't pull the donkey up. And so the people in the community, they came to, just to be with the gentleman whose donkey had fallen down in the well. And so that the owner said, well, since we can't get him up out of the well, let's just bury him in this location and close up the well. But as they were throwing the dirt down into the well, something very special occurred. The donkey started stepping up on the dirt, and before you know it, he had reached the top, and the owner and others were just able to lift him out of the well. And that's how it is in our lives. Sometimes when we fall into the wells of life and it seems like the world is throwing dirt on us, we don't have no chance of recovering from our circumstances or our situations. But we can step up on the dirt. We can get up out of the pit that we're in. We can rebound. We can make a comeback. As a matter of fact, I celebrate the comebacks in my life, by realizing that if it had not been for the Lord, I would not have made it. But God has brought me through. And I want you to know today that it's not over. God has a plan for you. And Jeremiah says he has a plan for us to do good and not to do evil, and to bring about an expected end. And so as I was reading this book, there was a few principles I thought I'd share with you today. Mostly I come just from my heart and, let you know that, the same thing God has done in me, he can do in you. But these principles really jumped out at me, and I wanted to, pinpoint some of them and see how it applies to your life. I know it applies to mine, and that is, number one, it says that you ought to respect yourself. question is, what does respecting ourselves have to do with making a comeback? Well, if you don't respect yourself, you're not going to get up from the place that you've fallen. You got to refuse to say that your downfall defines who you are. No, God says that we are a peculiar people. We are chosen priesthood. We are a royal generation. So no matter how far down you fall, and that should not determine who you are. You are God's chosen priesthood, a royal generation. So the first thing you have to do in order to get back up again, you got to respect who you are. God didn't make us to be broken forever. He allows us to go through some experiences that's going to build or bring about a greater character or personality in us to his glory and to his honor. But if we stand still and realize that even though I am not in the place that I ought to be, it does not define who I am. You might have lost a job. You might have, fallen behind in school. You might not be, in a position where as you are economically as stable as you would like to be. Your church, for that matter, may not be the church of the week. But God says that doesn't define you. You are my people. You are the sheep of my pasture. So, number one, you have to respect yourself. And then number two, you have to do more than what's expected of you. In other words, don't expect to do the bare minimum and rebound from a situation that may, in fact, take more than just the average for you to get back up on your feet. If that you have lost your home, for example, you have gone into foreclosure, and you want to buy another home, you're gonna have to go the extra mile. The Bible says, if any man asks you to go 1 mile, don't go 1 mile with him, but go 2 miles. You got to pick up the pieces. You got to go that extra mile. Don't expect to recover from an economic downfall or relationship problems, or some illness or some difficulties in your ministry, or you may in fact have a business and it's not rebounding the way you expect it to rebound. But keep in mind that if you just put a little more time in, you put a little more prayer, go into your own little secret closet and shut the door, seek the Lord in secret. And the Bible said he shall reward you openly. Just don't give up. Just go that extra mile. Pastor, be a visionary. Don't limit yourself to what you have done, but say, no, that he that's in me is greater than the ministry that I've had. God can reinvent you. He can take you to another level. I'm a witness of that. We're doing some things in our own ministry that's blowing my mind, because God says that, I'm not through with you yet. This is not the church of the 20th century. This is the church of the 21st century. So we got to go over and above what we're accustomed to. And then thirdly, you have to work at being credible. Don't think you can take shortcuts and be a person who can lead a comeback. No, you got to go through some stuff. You got to take the main road. You can't cut through this area and cut through that area and expect to get to your destiny in the time and in the place that God would have you to do. So keep in mind that God is not through with you yet. Go through some stuff. David said, yea, though I walk through the valleys of the shadows of death, I will fear no evil. He said, because God is with me, his rod and his staff, they shall comfort me, and he shall prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. In other words, God will not remove us, or he will not allow us to be exempted from difficulties and circumstances that seemingly at times overwhelm us, but he will allow us to make comebacks. As a matter of fact, Jesus made a comeback. They crucified him. They buried him in a bar tomb. But the Bible teaches us that Sunday morning, Jesus made a comeback. He got up. And when he got up, God gave him all power and in heaven and in earth. And because we are connected to Christ by faith, then we too can make a comeback. Life may sometimes put us in a tomb, might close the door, might, count us as, as being, forgotten. But that the race is not given to the swift, but it's given to those who will hold out until the end. So stay encouraged. Don't give up. Be a comeback a leader. There's people who have problems trying to get back up on their feet, but if they can just get with someone who is willing to sound the alarm and say, it's time for us to go forth. It's time for us to pick up our flag and march towards that hill and to take that hill, then you will be amazed at the people that will follow you to that destiny. So stay encouraged. Trust that God is going to do a wonderful thing in your life. Don't look at your setback as being permanent, but say to yourself, this is just an opportunity for me to make a comeback. God bless you. Keep us in prayer and hope to speak to you again soon.